So just looking at the general interface in version 17, one of the things that has been made a lot easier is the actual navigation around the actual system. So for example, you can see along the top here, we have this, we have all of the links to the area that we're currently viewing. And at the back of that, on the breadcrumb, we also have the last function that we completed. So in this case, it returns me back to the top level of the site. If I had just done a search, it would have returned to search results, etc., etc. So the whole idea is that navigation of the files of the actual web browser interface is far easier than it was in version 16. Okay, so I'm just going to go take a look at one of the assets on the system. So let me just navigate down here using the tree view navigation, and let's go open up a file that we have here. So I'm going to pick on this image right here, and let's click on that and open it up. Now, one of the other big changes in version 17 is that Xinet have incorporated what they call the media viewer across all of the assets when you view them. So the idea is you may not use this system for 6 months, but you can come back and it all still makes sense. So it's a lot more user friendly. So no matter whether I'm looking at a video, an image, a document, I will always get taken to this view when I click on the asset. And depending on what asset I've clicked on, it will allow me different permissions. So for example, this image, because it's an image, I'm allowed to use these functions here that are in the light grey colour, but some of the ones that are in this darker colour are not available to me because obviously it's not relevant to the file type we're looking at. So for example, text content is not relevant for this particular image. So let's go through and look at some of these tools. If I click on the top one, we have the annotation tools. Now we'll talk a bit more in detail about the annotations tools further into the demo. But the annotation tools allow you to do markup and annotation on any document on the Xinet server where we generate a preview. So it could be Word, Excel, PowerPoint, InDesign, it could be an image, it could be a video keyframe. So you've got a lot of scope for using these annotation tools across multiple different formats. This next tool, this next button here, this is one that's been around for a long time, but it was pretty well hidden in version 16. It's actually a really useful function. So for example, if I click on this, it shows all of the documents on the Xinet server where this particular image has been used previously. So very quickly you can identify where this particular image has been used, what documents, and you can quickly get to those documents and update them if you need to. So here I can add this document to the basket, I can open it, or I can actually browse to the folder where that document actually resides on the actual file server. So that's that one. Containing, custom order. This feature has been around again for a long time, but it's actually had a bit of resurgence recently because a lot of the, especially the agencies that we deal with, they also have incorporated the interactive departments into the Xinet scope of work. So that basically means that this function is really useful. If this image had been used in a print production file or folder and it had been retouched and it was the signed off approved asset, the great thing about Xinet is that you can store that onto the central server, and then I can come into the system, maybe I need to use this for a website banner ad, and I can just basically set up exactly how I want this image to be delivered to me. So I want it at 72 dpi, I want it at 50% of the original size, depending on the file type. Maybe I want it as an EPS, then I can change the color space here. Maybe I want it as a GIF because I'm using it on a website and I want it as grayscale. I can even do ICC color corrections and unsharp masks, and you can embed your own profiles in there. And the great thing is when I click on download, that will take a copy of the master asset and deliver it in the format that was requested, but it won't affect the original in any way, shape or form. So that's a great time saver, and it also allows you to do that across the shopping basket if you've got multiple assets that you want to apply that to. So that's the custom order. The info button, this is quite useful, and we'll show this several times throughout the demo. The info button is going to give you all of the information about the file that we can actually extract from within it. So for example, when it was last accessed, last modified, the image type, the height, the preview, the color space, all of that information is logged here. Now, in addition to that, we also show the detailed history, and all of the functionality I'm showing you here can be turned off for different users. So you might not want your clients to see the detailed history, for example. So in here, I might want to see what's happened to this file. So I can see that if I click on trigger, that on the 12th of February at this time, the user native admin, and it can give you the IP address if it has it, set off a trigger and action to save the file. Up here, someone downloaded a preview and it was the user demo, and it was from this IP address. So you've got a full audit of what's happened to that file since it arrived on the actual Xinet server. Another feature, obviously, we'll talk about this in more detail as well a bit further into the demo, is metadata. Now, in version 17, it's stored in this panel on the left-hand side, and you'll see that all of the metadata here, it can be XMP embedded metadata, it can be custom metadata fields that you've created through the Xinet system, and all of this metadata is customizable. So when Jill looks at this image, for example, she may see these metadata fields. When I look at that image and I'm a client, I could see completely different metadata information. So you've got complete control over all of these metadata fields and values, and you've also got complete control over who can change them and what they can do with these metadata fields. And again, we'll come back to these in a bit more detail into the demo. Versions. Now, this is quite interesting. This is a new feature that got added in version 17, and you can create versioning by using triggers and actions functionality at the back end. So the powerful thing about using triggers and actions is that you can version all of the file types, but you can version them under your own rules. So for example, I might say I only want to version InDesign documents, and I only want to version InDesign documents in this specific folder on the server. So it doesn't have to be a global versioning across the entire system. You can be very specific about what file types and where those versions occur. You also get to control what sets off the versioning to happen. So for example, if I save over the top of this file, that might create a version. If someone uploads a file into the same folder, that could create a version. So you've got a large amount of flexibility on this actual tool. And just to give you an example of it working, I'm just going to minimize this to my dock here. On my server, let's go take a look at this image that we're looking at. It's this image right here. So you can see that's the image we're currently looking at in the web browser. So you can see that I've got permission to see all of the previous versions of this particular image, but there's only one version sitting on the file server. So if I want to go back to a previous version, I can sort of get a preview here, and you can see that this version is in black and white, and because I've got permissions, I can promote that version back to the file server. So let's click on promote. And what that's going to do now is it's going to take this version that was on the file server, and it's going to update it with a previous version. And it's also going to update the preview in the web browser, and you can see that we're now looking at the black and white version. And if I open up this image in Photoshop, you can see that it is in fact the black and white version as well. So no one's going to make a mistake and use the wrong version, because you can only ever access the correct version on the file server. The other thing you can do here, which again is a new feature, we have this little compare button at the top here. And if I click on that, you can do this with any document type on the server. You can actually compare them side by side. So I can select the version that I want to compare it against. So I want to see it against version 5, and it will show me version 5, and I can compare it against the current version. So that's a nice new feature that's been added in version 17. So let's close that. And just before I forget, I'm going to go back to my original color version, just so that it doesn't mess up anything in my demo a bit later on. Okay, so I've promoted that back again, and the last tool in here is the zoom tool, where we can obviously zoom in and out on the file, and we can sort of pan around. And when I let go, it will then render that part in high resolution. So it's very quick to zoom around, so you can see it looks low resolution until you let go, and then it will res up that particular part of the image that you're looking at. Now the great thing about the zoom tool is you can use it in conjunction with other tools as well. So if I go back here, we've zoomed into this part of the file. Now, if I want to, I can do a custom order, and it will only deliver this part of the file to me in the format that I specify. So you can also use it in conjunction with some of the other tools in here. Okay, so that's a little bit about the actual look and feel once you click onto an image. I want to also talk about another new feature that got added in version 17. Now, for those of you that are using the exhibit style, this feature is the sorting feature, and you can use this once you've done a search, or you can actually sort on a folder of assets that you might be viewing in the web browser. So in the exhibit style, which we're currently looking at here, there's this little icon down the bottom called options, and when you click on that, it gives you all of these filter options on the actual display that you're looking at. So for example, I want, out of all of these images we're looking at, I want to see all of the ones that are Illustrator files. And when I click on that filter, it will filter that out for me. And you can see that it's done that there in the browser. Let me just remove all of those filters. Going back to the IOI style, we've done it slightly differently in that we put the filters here next to the volume. So if I click on my filters, you can see here that we have all of the filters, and maybe I want to see the Illustrator one. We just tick it, and it will show me the Illustrator ones straight away here, and we can remove those filters if we want to. So exactly the same functionality, but just in a slightly different place because the skin is slightly different. So that's the filter tool. Now you can also use that once you've done a search as well. So if you do a search and it pulls back 4,000 results, you might want to filter down on that search and only show certain criteria from within that search. Okay, so let's go back to the top level here. And
Gary, we had a quick question. I don't know if you want to take the chance to answer it.
Sure, okay.
It was, if you delete the file from ASP, does it automatically remove associated version as well?
So it doesn't, I believe it doesn't, but I would need to double check on that, because what essentially happens when you create a version, it creates a hidden folder here on the file system that you cannot see, and it puts a copy of that version actually onto the file system inside the versions folder. There may be a way that we could possibly script that so that it could do that, but I don't think that it does it out of the box, but I'm pretty sure we could automate that for you if possible.
Thanks.
Okay, so just moving on here, there's a couple of new features that I wanted to show you just while I'm in this view. So let me go back to my brochure area here, and let me click on links. Okay, so now we're back in the links area. A new feature that got added in version 17, and this may or may not be useful to you. So I'm going to show it here from inside Exhibit. So let's go to the actual folder on the server, and let's look at one of these images here. So this one here is pretty obvious. So I've selected an image, and everyone has the ability to do this from their Mac. I'm going to label that and make it the colour red. So you can see that I've coloured it up here. Now from the web browser, if I reload the browser here, you'll see that it honours that colouring inside the actual web browser as well. Now this is a function that you can turn off, so you may not want this to be turned on, but that may be useful if you're doing some sort of approval cycle, or you want to highlight a file in some sort of way, then you can use that functionality. So just to show you that that works, if I take the label off and hit refresh here, you'll see that that label then disappears. The other thing I wanted to show you just while we're in here is if I add all of these items that we're looking at currently to the shopping basket, so I'm going to do that here. Excuse me. There's a new feature that Xinet added. If I go to the actual basket now, let's go to the shopping basket. And this one is actually quite a useful feature. It's called a contact sheet. And a lot of people were asking for this. So we're inside the shopping basket, we've got all of these images, and if I click on contact sheet, what it does, it opens up this little box for us, and we can now make some decisions about what we want to be included in the contact sheet. So I'm going to leave this as the default with 3 columns. If you want to change it, you'll notice that the pixels will change here. So you can play around with those settings. The font size you can change as well. You can even include a QR code. So if you want someone to be able to read that asset and take them to it automatically, you can do that as well. And these are the keywords that are assigned to these particular assets that are in the basket. So I might not care about the region, for example, or I might not care about whether it's been approved, the approval status. So you can select what keywords you want in the contact sheet. You then also have some other options. You might want to add to this when that file was created, or when it was last modified. You might want to say include the color space for this image and include the resolution. If you've got videos, you might want to get some information about the video, etc., etc. Then once you've done that, you can then click on this button, Generate Contact Sheet PDF, and it will go away, and in the background, it will automatically create that contact sheet as a PDF and deliver it to you through the web browser. So that'll take a few seconds just to do that. I'm going to open it up in Acrobat here. And when we open it, you'll see that we've got this really nice contact sheet, and it's got previews of the assets, and it's got the metadata that we asked for underneath, and it's also got other information such as the color space and the resolution. So you can see very quickly we can identify all of those assets in a contact sheet. Now I know that feature is really useful for a lot of people. The other great thing is because it's a PDF, we can actually embed the links into that PDF as well. So you might send that contact sheet to someone else, and if they've got access to the Xinet system, they can click on the link within the PDF, and it will take them directly to where that image is stored on the system. So another nice little feature that we've added into the system here. Okay, so that's a little bit about the contact sheets. Let's go take a look at some documents in here. So I'm going to jump across to my product brochures, and you'll see that I've got an InDesign document right here. I've also got a Quark and a PDF. I'm going to concentrate on the InDesign document, so let's click on that. Now, if I was on an iPad and I wanted to get to the other pages in this document, obviously I'd just use my finger to swipe across the pages here. Because we're looking at a document, we have some additional functionality available to us. We can still annotate on the document. You'll notice here that we've also got the info button, and again that gives us information about the actual file itself. Linked files, this one's really useful, and it's a little bit more interactive with the actual file now as well. So if I'm an account manager and my client's called me up and asked me for an image that was on page 22 of the InDesign document, but they don't know what it was called, but they want it delivered yesterday, what you can do is make this self-service. So your account manager or your client can come into the browser, they can select the InDesign document, and from here you'll see that when I hover above any of these images, it actually shows me where on the page that image is being used. And if we click into it, we can then download that, add it to the basket, or we can do a custom order directly from within this panel. So it's a really nice, easy way for your clients, account managers, or anyone else to be able to do self-service from within the documents. Another feature that a lot of people didn't even know existed is up here we have a button, Add Remove All. And if I select that, what it will do, it will collect all of the imagery and the actual InDesign document itself and put them straight into the shopping basket for me. So from here we could download all of those files straight from the shopping basket. So it's another nice little function that's always been there, but again, a lot of people didn't know it was there. Excuse me. So that's a little bit about navigation inside some InDesign and some document formats. Obviously, we also support Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Office files, and you'll notice that when you hover above them, you can get the previews. Actually, before I go back to that, I'm going to quickly jump back into my InDesign document because I wanted to show you some more functionality in there. Metadata, some new features that got added in version 17 was the ability for you to not only preview the metadata values, but you can also preview some of the information that's stored within the document, and you can enable that very easily, and it will show you that here in the actual metadata area. So for example, with documents, I want it to show me all of the fonts that we've used inside that particular document. Or I might want to show all of the swatches that we used inside that particular document. So you can pull out some additional information that's above and beyond the metadata that you've created or had within the system. Okay, let's go back. The other big feature that got added is text content. So if I select text content, it actually shows me all of the text boxes that are inside that document. So you can see that it actually highlights where on the page that text is actually being stored. And we can even tip down on the arrow, we can cut and paste that text, or we can read it, and we can even click on this little pencil icon, and that will take us straight into a sticky note annotation directly on the document itself, and it will extract all of the original text. So maybe I want to take out these this bit of text here. I can do that. I can click on OK, and I have a sticky note annotation. Again, I'll come back to the annotations in a bit more detail a bit later into the demo. And again, just to show you that versioning doesn't just work on images, and it can also work on documents as well, and you can version files within the system. Okay, so that's a little bit about the document.
There's a question on that. It was what version of 17 or Portal is this contact sheet available in?
So that contact sheet is available in version 17.04, which is the latest version.
And are those available through, someone asked if those were available through IOI transition and email templates. Are contact sheets available through IOI transition and email templates?
Currently, the contact sheet is not available in transition because we've only gone up to .3, and .4 is a pretty new release, but probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks that will be available in transition also.
Okay, great. Thanks.
No problem. Okay, so let's go take a look at some video. I know a lot of people here now do a lot of work with video, so let's spend a little bit of time taking a look at how Xinet deals with video formats as well. Okay, so I've got on my server here, if I go back a couple of levels, I have a folder here called TV Spots. And in there, I've got a lot of standard video formats that you're going to come across. We've got Swift banner ads, MP3, movies, we've got AVIs, DVLs, Flash, all types of video formats. From the browser, when you store a video on the server, Xinet will go through that video and it will extract out keyframes when it detects a scene change within the video. So let's look at this video here, for example. You can see that we've extracted out keyframes all the way through that video. Now you get to set the threshold of how sensitive those scene detections are. And the other great thing is that you can actually stream that just by clicking on this little button here. So if I click on stream, it will stream it right in the browser. The other great thing is you can stream it at different resolutions. So maybe I want to stream it at iPad resolution, so it's going to be slightly bigger. And you can see that it's now streaming at iPad size and resolution. Let's go back again. So that's the streaming. Now, the other great thing about this is you can actually, when you click on the video, it will take you into the M view again, the media viewer. And from here, we have, again, some options. Info will actually give us a lot of information about the codecs of the actual video. It'll give us the frame rates, all of that stuff that's stored within the file. We can extract that straight into this area. The other great thing that it does is it can automatically transcode the videos into multiple different formats. So, for example, if your guys are perhaps creating video content using Final Cut Pro, they can store the native files as Apple ProRes format onto the Xinet server, and the Xinet server can automatically transcode into whatever formats you require, whatever outputs you need, straight away automatically, and store them within the Xinet database. So me as a client can come in here and say, right, actually I need this video, but I need it in the iPhone 4 format. So I'm going to click on download, and you'll notice that that downloaded that straight to my desktop, and there it is on my desktop, and straight away I can play it in the iPhone 4 format. So really quite cool. That saves a lot of time, it saves a lot of money, and it's something that the video guys don't particularly like doing, because essentially all they're doing is duplicating work in different formats. So why not let Xinet do that for you, and it will save you a bunch of time and a bunch of money at the same time. So that's one of the real big bonuses of that. And also, I haven't got versions stored here, but we can version those videos as well. So that's a little bit about information about a video. I'm just going to go back again. I know a lot of people deal with Swift banner ads and Flash formats because you're creating those for your digital content in your interactive departments. So let's talk a little bit about a Swift banner ad here. Again, we can extract out the frames of that banner ad in rotation, but we can also click on Stream. When I click on Stream, Designet's server wraps a layer of HTML around that banner ad and then plays it directly in the browser for me. So I don't need to open that file up in Flash. I don't need to go and look over someone's shoulder that has a Mac. I can do it straight away in the browser without needing any application. So it's a real useful tool that people can have. A lot of people create thousands of those banner ads, but they're really very small files, but they're very hard to view. So obviously now we've got that in the browser, we can tag it with metadata, we can search upon it, we can preview it, we can even stream it. So a real big bonus. This one here is an audio file, and if the audio file has artwork attached to it, then we'll pull out a preview of that artwork as well. If I click on stream, it will just play the audio of that file. The other thing we can do as well is I've got a folder here. Let me go to the server itself. I've got a folder here called website, and I've got two different folders. I've got one called competitor websites and one called Tropics website. The Tropics website is essentially a HTML website that I've created, and these are all of the elements that are used to create that website. So if we go take a look at that from the Xinet server, let's click on the button here. You'll see that it's showing me actually within the HTML files. I can actually physically see inside the HTML. And if I click on it, a bit like a print file, I can annotate on that HTML page. I can look at the linked files, and it will show me all of the other HTML pages that are attached to this website and all of the imagery that's used on that particular page that we're viewing. The other thing that we can do is we can actually, you can actually store URLs or weblog files. And just to explain what that is, if I literally go to the web browser here and drag that to my desktop, that is essentially a URL. Now, if you place that onto the Xinet server, and I have got a bunch of them here, you'll see that basically when you do that, it allows you to be able to, the Xinet server, provided it's got internet access, will go out over the internet and it will pull previews from those websites, whatever you've selected. So very quickly, this is a UK company, Marks and Spencer's. If I click on that, I can see a preview of that website using that URL. And it also knows that that has revolving content. So it's got 4 different images that are used on that front cover page. So if I go to the next slide, it will show me the next preview. So that's a little bit about the website. And one other thing you can do inside the video engine, which I won't do now because we're a little bit short of time, you can actually do a collection. So for example, I might add a video, I might add a PowerPoint slideshow, I might add some still life photography, some imagery. And then what we can do once we've got that is we can create a show reel. So I might output that as a Flash format or I don't know, an MPG format and deliver that to my desktop, and you can create your own show reels inside the Xinet system. Okay, one thing I definitely did want to cover off, because it does get asked quite a lot, is image rights and that type of functionality. So before I do that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some metadata inside the Xinet system. And Gary? To do that, what I'm going to do is just to show you that I'm not cheating. Yep.
Should we go ahead and ask a couple of questions on the last segment you just showed us?
Sure. If you've got some questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Well, the first one was, can we do versioning with Swift files?
You can, I believe, yes. Let me go back here and let's go see if we can do that. Let's click on that Swift file. Versions. Yeah, if I create a new version here, we can version a Swift file, no problem at all.
Excellent. The next question is HTML rendering part of our out-of-the-box portal, or is it part of the video module?
It is part of the video module.
Okay. And then the other question is what's being presented specific to the transitions look and feel, or might that look different at another implementation?
Yeah, so basically everything I'm showing you is functionality that comes out the box with Xinet. So although I'm showing it in the transition skin, all of this functionality is available in the basic exhibit style that keep referring to. And it's also available if you want to customize your own sites. So all this stuff is available, yes. And I'm not showing you anything that is an add-on from IOI or any other tools. It's all completely out of the box.
Okay, but the look and feel is from the transitions template from IOI.
The look and feel, and the reason I'm showing the look and feel is just because I want to show to people that you can customize the look and feel for different clients' requirements rather than just showing you the out-of-the-box style, which is why I'm kind of using both just to give you a different perspective on the same functionality from the two different views.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so the other thing I want to show you very quickly, I'm just going to close down some of these folders here. And on my desktop, I've got a folder here. So you can see that I've got a folder here called Assets that's residing on my desktop. And if I open that up, I have an image in here called Test Image. Now, I'm just going to literally open up that image in Photoshop on my desktop. And if I go to File Info, I just wanted to talk a little bit about metadata and XMP because it's a very important subject for a lot of people. So if I do File Info on that actual image, you'll see that I've got lots of different metadata values. We've got IPTC fields, we've got description fields. I'm just going to put some information in here. I'm going to say girl, drinking, and tropics. So I've just put in some keywords inside that keyword field. I'm going to click on OK, I'm going to save that, and I'm going to close it down. Now, as you know, that image is actually sitting on my desktop. So what I'm going to do is copy it now to the Xinet server. So let's copy it here, and let's close that down. So there it is on the Xinet server, and let's go take a look at that now. There's the image. Now, if I click on this, if we go to metadata, you'll see that those metadata values that I stored in the XMP have been pulled through and displayed in the Xinet interface. So that's great. That means that you might have copyright information, you might have photographer information. All of that information Xinet can gather from within the file and display it here right in the browser. Now let's flip that round the other way, and I'm going to do this in a slightly different manner than I would normally do. So let me go back again. Now this image, actually, let me go back into it again. I didn't explain myself very well there. Let's go back to the metadata. You can see that we've got these metadata values, but none of these, account manager, media, campaign name, none of those are filled in. I could fill them in manually, but I'm not going to. So let's go back again. Now, all I'm going to do, this is an example of a trigger and action, and try to expand your mind a little bit about what you can do with these triggers and actions to make your life a lot easier when you're administrating or looking after a system for a client. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this image, and I'm literally just going to drag it into this folder called Product Brochures. And you see that I just did that, and there's the image sitting at the top level there. So let's go into that folder. Now, a minute ago, I opened up that image, and you can see that it only had the keywords that I applied at the beginning. If I click on the image now, and we go to the metadata, you'll see that these metadata fields have been populated. So we've got an account manager, a media type, and a campaign name. Now, the reason that that got populated is because I had a trigger and action set up that said anything that gets placed into this folder called Product Brochures automatically inherit the metadata from that parent directory. So that's something you can do yourself very, very easily out the box with Xinet, and it just saves you from having to populate a lot of keywords because a lot of this information is repetitive and it's dependent on where the file is stored on the system. So it's a great way of using triggers and actions to make your life a bit easier. Okay, so let's reverse that round again now. Now what I'm going to do, these metadata fields that are populated on the Xinet system, if I actually open up that image in Photoshop again, so here it is in Photoshop, let's go back to File Info. And if I go to Advanced, you'll see that Xinet actually has its own metadata schema. And you have the ability to push custom metadata that's created in the Xinet system back into the actual file itself. And why is that useful? Well, it could be useful for a lot of different reasons, but a couple that come to mind straight away is maybe I have a Xinet server in New York, and I also have a Xinet server in London. It doesn't even have to be a Xinet server, it just has to be a server that can read XMP. Basically, when I download that image from New York and I want to put it onto my Xinet server in London, I don't particularly want to go through and type all of that information back in again. So we can pull that information out of the actual file itself, and it will automatically populate itself. The other great reason for that might be that you push all of that metadata into the file so that when a client downloads it, perhaps you want them to have all of the image right information stored in the file so that you're covering yourself. Maybe it has a description saying, if you use this image unauthorized, then we're not liable, or something like that. There's a million different reasons why that's useful, but again, it's another feature that a lot of people don't utilize, perhaps because they don't know it's there, or perhaps because they think it's complex to set up. It's actually really, really easy to use and very easy to set up. Okay, so let's close that image down. One other feature I want to show you, this again is a really massively underused feature inside the Xinet system. So to show this, I'm just going to go back to my image folder here. And I'm showing you this on an image, but it could be anything. It could be a video, it could be a document, it could be absolutely anything you want. And you see that I've got an image here called drinkinggirl.psd, and that image is unavailable to me. I've got no download options. It's completely unavailable. We've got a little button here. If I click on it, I can actually fill out a form, and that could send an email off to someone saying, hey, I need to use this image. Please, can you go and purchase the rights for it again, or something like that. But let's go take a look at an image that we do actually have open. Let's click on this one here, for example. And let's go to the metadata. Now, there's two ways we can do this. We can either physically lock it, or we can put an expiry date on it. So I'm going to say that I purchased this image from Stock Photography in 2011, and I purchased the rights to use that file for a year. So you can put in those dates, that date range. I haven't clicked on submit, so it's not going to do it. But when you do click on submit, it will then watermark that file, make it unavailable, and people can't use it anymore. So a really nice, easy way of controlling your assets. Now, one of the big benefits of version 17 is that they expanded on that functionality. So you have the option to actually fail print jobs if that image is already placed inside it. So if I had an InDesign document and before that image expired, I had already placed it into that document, and now I go to print it, we can actually just fail the print job when it gets printed, so that even if the file's already been used, it can't be used anymore, and it will just fail at the print stage. So again, you've got another layer of security there to make sure that you don't misuse it. To show this next part of the demonstration, I'm going to launch another web browser, and I'm going to log in as a different user. So let's log in, and just to differentiate, I'm going to log in and let's use the exhibit skin so you can see the different style. So I'm going to log in with the user demo2, and once I've logged into the system, you'll see that this user only has access to two different areas of the system. They've got access to this area here called image library and access to this folder called approved for pickup. If I go to approved for pickup, you'll see that that folder is completely empty. So just remember that that folder is empty. If I go to image library, you'll see that I can see all of the images that this user over here can see, but you'll notice I don't have any permissions to download anything. All I can do is add it to the shopping cart. So this user here might be an external media company or someone that needs to use some of your imagery for a particular press release or something like that. So I need to use this image here of the Tropics logo, and I also need to use this image here of the bottle. So I've added those two items to the shopping cart, and when we go to the shopping cart, I've only got one button I can use called Asset Fulfillment Request. So I can fill out some details. Alright, please can I use? Obviously you can make that a lot more intuitive, that form. When I click on submit, what that does, it essentially sends an email off to the librarian or the designated person in charge of that system, and you can see I've got a nice preview of the files that that person requested. It's giving me all the information about that user, and I also have a little link here. When I click on that link and I log in as the admin person, that will directly take me to those assets that got requested, and from here I can either approve or reject the use of them. So I'm going to say, yes, you can use the Tropics logo, but I don't want you to use this image of the bottle, and you can have whatever reasons you want here. I've not added any reasons, but I'm going to say value 2. And when you click on submit, what that will do is it will fire an email back to the person that requested those assets, telling them that one of them's been rejected. So let's go back to our email. So this one here has been rejected, and any assets that have been approved, you could send them in the email, or let's go back to this user. Let's return to browse. That folder called approved for pickup that I showed you a moment ago that was completely empty, if we now go into it, there's that logo that I've just allowed that person to use. So it moved the copy of it to an area where they do have permission to download it. And just to give you another example of a trigger and action, I'm actually going to download that file now. So just to show you what's going on my server, if I go to, let's go back a folder here, approval, sorry, distribution. So there's the file that we're currently looking at. It's shown as a PDF because it's an Illustrator file. Now I'm going to download that file. So I've downloaded that to my desktop. Now you notice that that file's now disappeared out of that folder. If I hit refresh in the browser, that image is no longer there. So what I did, I set up a trigger and action saying that when the client downloads the requested assets, it automatically deletes it off the file server, and then it sends them an email. So here's the email that I've just sent them to let them know that I'm going to invoice them for downloading from my system. So I've combined 2 or 3 different features together there to make a workflow. We had the asset fulfillment request module combined with the triggers and actions to send an email and to automatically delete a file. So just trying to show you some different concepts and ways of using this functionality. Okay, so that was a little bit about some user rights.
Gary?
What I do want to do is, yes.
We had a question about using triggers and actions. Can we do a trigger from an action from XMP? So for example, if a designer changes a metadata value in Photoshop, can that cause a trigger and action within Web Native?
If the asset resides on the Xinet system, then yes, that is possible.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so sorry, let me get my train of thought here. So let's go to searching. Searching in version 17 is 1,000 times better than it was in version 16. It's been completely rebuilt from the ground up. It's a lot more robust. It's a lot more flexible, and it's a lot quicker than version 16. And I'll explain that in a bit more detail in a second. So basically, when you do a search now, you get 3 options. You can do a quick search, and you can see there's my quick search option here. Or I can do a search top level. If I click on that, I can do a quick search from within here. I can do a save search, or I can do an advanced search. My web browser's got a little bit funky because I keep switching between skins. So let me just reset Safari here and go back in again. Apologies for that. It's just a caching issue because I've had 2 different styles open at the same time. So let me go back to my quick search. So let's imagine that I'm sitting in the system. Every client knows how to use Google, and most people expect searches to work exactly like Google nowadays. So let me do a search for the term mango. And when I hit search, the Xinet system will search all of the assets that I have permission to be able to search on. That's an improvement on version 16, where if you did a search all, it would search everything in the entire Xinet database, and then it would only show you the stuff you have permission to. Now it does it the other way around. It will only search the area that I have had permission to start off with. So that makes the search a lot faster straight away. Now, because I did a search for Mango, it's going to go away and it's going to find anything with a folder that has Mango in it, anything with a file name, a metadata value, any text content, and it will even search the annotations. So this folder here has been highlighted in blue, and so has this one here because it's got the word Mango in the folder name. This image here, pretty self-explanatory. It's found the word Mango in the file name. Snorkeling Girl, I've got absolutely no idea why it found the word Mango. So if I click on the actual asset itself, it will take me into Media Viewer and it will highlight where it found that search term. So it actually found it here in the keywords. So it very quickly identifies why it found that hit. And at the top here, you can see the breadcrumbs. We can look at the previous match, or we can view the next match, or we can return to our search results. So I'm going to go ahead and return to our search results. And from here, you'll see that we've got some documents. Now, this InDesign file right here is telling me that it's found something on page 2 of 3. You can see that down here. So if I go ahead and actually click on that InDesign document, it will take me directly into the InDesign file. It will show me where it found the word mango, and it will actually highlight the text box where it found that hit. So it's really quite powerful. It actually mines all of the documents for all of this text content as well. And Xinet will extract text on Word, Excel, PowerPoint, InDesign, Quark Express, PDF if it's not vectorized, HTML. It will even search mine text from CAD files as well. Really, really powerful features and functionality that you get in version 17. Let's return back to the search. So that was the quick search. What I'm going to do now is do a search, a different type of search. We've got saved searches, which you can create your own search and then share it with other members of your group. And I'm going to search on something that's already been saved, which is called Archive Medical Search. So basically, it's showing me what it's now going to search. It's going to search for anything with a campaign name of medical that's been archived. So if I hit search, it's going to find anything that's been archived with those criteria that we set. So that was a save search. Let's go back to the top level again and let's go to advanced options. Now you can customize what options people can see in this list. So don't be alarmed when I click on this little button here. You can see that in version 17 you can search across much more. So for example, you can see we've got all of these events that we can search on. These are database events. So for example, I might want to search on let's have a look for something really useful. Event deleted. So I'm an administrator and I want to find all of the files that have been deleted in the last, whatever I specify, let's say 1 day. When I hit search, it will pull back a result and it will show me all of the files that have been deleted in the last 24 hours. So really quite nice. You can do some really good searching here. You can also now search across a lot of other stuff. So maybe I want to search on anything to do with a file. So for example, I might want to find anything that's under the resolution of 1 gig because our disk space is running out. I might also want to search on, I don't know, anything with a specific ICC color profile. I might want to search on anything on my server that is equal to RGB because they need to be converted to CMYK. So if we hit search, it pulls back all of the RGB files. So as you can see, there's a lot more content you can search on. You can search across video codecs now as well. You can even search across annotation stamps. The one I'm going to search on is search all. Now in version 16, if you did a search all, that would put the fear of God into the administrator because it would essentially go and search everything in a database and it would really affect performance for a few minutes while it did that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to search for tropics and South America. Now, when I search on this, I'm pretty certain I'm not going to find any results. So let's do search. And it's not found anything. So let's go back again, and I'm going to do that same search again. I'm going to do search all. And I'm going to search on tropics, South America. So you're probably thinking I'm crazy right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the flag, and I'm going to change it to this one here called aggregate has each. And when I hit search, it's actually going to find some results for me now. And the reason it's found some results is because aggregate has each is not restricted to finding that criteria in one data field. It can search across multiple metadata fields. So when I did that first search, it didn't find tropics South America in one metadata value. When I did it using the aggregate has each option, it can then split that that criteria and it can find it across multiple metadata fields. So it found tropics in this metadata field and South America in this one. So it's a lot more powerful. You've got a lot more functionality in the search engine. It's a lot quicker and it's a lot more user friendly. And don't be alarmed about what I'm showing you here, because obviously you can prune this and manage it so that clients can only search on specific things that you want them to. So is there any questions on searching before I move on to the uploader?
No, I haven't seen any questions come through. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. So let's go back to the top level. So let's talk about the uploading ability in Xinet. Now, let me just clean up my desktop a little bit here. So with the uploader in Xinet, it's a great feature where people can send you files by using a little application that sits on their desktop and it works on a Mac or a PC. Now, if you're a client, it's great because you can just get files and you can drag and drop and send them into the system. Currently in version 16, if you're an administrator, it can be a little bit of a pain point because you have to create multiple uploaders and send them to different people as and when they need them. So in version 17, you get the option to be able to do create a distributor. So the idea behind this is I'm logged into this site currently as the user demo. So the system knows who I'm logged in as. Now, if I click on this button here, distributor, what that will do, it will actually look at my user credentials and it will look at my permissions and it will then deliver a Xinet uploader to my desktop with the correct permissions. And you can see there it is on my desktop. So that's great. As an administrator, you don't have to keep creating all these uploaders. People can come and create them themselves just by clicking on that button. That's great if people move, if people maybe get a new laptop or something, you don't have to create a new one for them, or if someone starts new in the company, they can create their own uploader. Now, the other great thing about that, which I didn't mention, is that distributor button, when I clicked on it, it knew that I made a request from a Mac, so it delivered a Mac uploader to my desktop. If I was on a PC, it would have delivered a PC uploader. So what I'm going to do now, just to talk about the uploader a bit more, I've got an uploader and I'm going to send some assets into the system. So let me just show you where we are on the server. That uploader that just got created is allowed to send files into this folder here called incoming. And I'm going to delete that file that's already living in that folder. So we've got these 3 folders here that that person can upload to. So I'm going to grab this image and this video and I'm going to drag them onto my uploader right here. Okay, let's open it up. Now, what we've got is we've got a metadata value that's in red. So this user is allowed to upload to any one of these 3 folders. That's been specified already. But I've said that this person cannot upload these files unless they fill in this field here called media. Now, you can customize whatever metadata you want to be specified in here. So I'm going to say that this is an interactive file and it's for the campaign of medical and it's for the region of Asia. When I click on upload, it's going to send those files exactly where I told them to go into this folder. It had a problem with my mail server because my mail server is not connected, essentially. But what it would also do is it would send you an email to let you know that someone's uploaded into the system. Okay, so you can see that there's the files. They've arrived on the system exactly where I want them to be. That's all very good. That's all very fantastic. What you can also do, and you can expand on the uploader by using triggers and actions again. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to do this slightly different. So I'm going to delete those files that we just uploaded, but I'm going to, it's still creating a preview, that's why it's not letting me delete that. Do that now. Okay. I'll come back to those in a second. It's not deleting it because it's still generating the preview. In fact, I'll just upload to a different folder. So this time, I'm going to call it, I'm going to upload this one test image just so that it's an obvious name. And I'm going to upload it to this folder called 1234. But this time I'm going to change some things. I'm going to say that this is a print file and it's for tropics and it's for the region of Europe. So keep your eye out. This is where the file should be arriving. If I click on upload now, okay, that's fine. That file has been uploaded and it's actually gone into that folder, but it's automatically disappeared. And the reason it disappeared is because I've said any file arriving in that particular folder, I want you to look at the metadata value that's been assigned to it and then file it accordingly. So if I go back a few levels here to the server and we go to product brochures, you'll see that there's my image. So essentially what I did, I created one uploader that could have gone to multiple people, and depending on the metadata that's filled in, when that file arrives, the database will read the information from the metadata, and it will then file that image in the correct location on the file system, depending on your trigger and action. So again, it's just another way of using triggers and actions to automate a task and make your administration a lot easier for you. Any questions on that at all? And I'm pretty much nearly finished. I'm just going to go through an example workflow, and then I'm pretty much done. Is there any questions on that, Gio, at all?
No, I don't see any more. Does anyone have any questions? Or otherwise, we're gonna finish out here. No raises of hands. So
okay. Good stuff. All right, bear with me, guys. This next bit's going to take me approximately 5 minutes, and then I'll open up the floor to any questions and go over anything that wasn't clear as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into InDesign. I'm actually going to quit out of my web browser at this point, and I'm going to close that down, and I've gone into InDesign. So here's InDesign, and I'm sitting on my Mac in my studio working in InDesign. Now what I've got is these options here called plugins at the top, and Xinet allow you to install these on any of your client machines. So I've got one here called Asset Browser, and if I select that, what it does, it launches this little palette inside InDesign. And again, this is essentially a web browser, so you can customize this to look however you want it to look. So I'm going to log in with my username and password. And the great thing about this is if I'm a studio person, I don't particularly want to come out of InDesign, Photoshop or Illustrator to go hunting around the file system to find the files that I need to work on. So I can essentially just use this palette. I can search and navigate the file system from within InDesign. So I'm going to go to this folder here, Tropics Campaign. And once I go in there, I've got some images, and I've got some different types of files, and I've also got an InDesign document. Underneath that, we have two buttons. We have Reveal and we have Open. So it does exactly what it says. If I click on Reveal, it will actually open up the folder where that image or document is stored, and it will show me where it is. If I click on Open, and I'm going to go ahead and open this InDesign document, it will actually open up the file for me. I'm going to update my links, and it's opened it up straight away into InDesign. Okay, so what I've got here is a real basic, and forgive my design skills, I've got a really basic InDesign document. 2 pages, there's page 1, and there's page 2. Page 2 needs a little bit of work doing to it. I need to put some copy in, so let's go ahead and do that. Tropics is great. So I put some copy in, and I need to do some other work. I need to put some items on the page. I need this image here of the bottle. So I've dragged and dropped that from the little browser here, and I've placed it directly on the page. So there it is. And I also want the Tropics logo as well. So here's an Illustrator logo. Let's drag and drop that onto the page. And let's position that over here as well. Okay, so I've done some real basic changes to the page. I'm not really happy with that image of the bottle, so I want to go into Photoshop and add a label to it. So I could obviously just open it up, or from the palette here, there's the image that we just used. I can click on Open, and that will actually launch InDesign. Sorry, it will launch Photoshop for me, and you'll see that the palette is still active, even though I'm in Photoshop. So it works across Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. I've added a label. There's one that I did earlier, and I'm going to save that, and I'm going to close it. So let's come out of Photoshop. Back here in InDesign, I'm going to use another Xinet plugin called the Picture Angler to relink that image to the high res. So it should update with the latest one. So I've done that, and there you'll see that it's now got the label on the actual image. Just trying to catch up. Bear with me just a second. Okay, so there we go. There's the image with the new updated label. So I've done my work. I'm happy with that. I'm now just going to save this document. So I'm going to do Save As, and I'm going to save it back here to my Xinet server. I've got a folder here called Approval, and I've got one called Awaiting. So let's just give it a different name, and I'm going to hit on Save. So essentially, all I did using this palette was navigate the file system, do some dragging and dropping, did a little bit of work, and now I'm just going to close down this document. So let's close that down, and let's close down the asset palette as well. Okay, so what happened, I saved that file to this particular folder on the server called Approval Center, and there it is sitting inside Awaiting. Now this is another new feature in version 17. If I go to my email, in a second, I'm going to receive an email. It takes a few seconds to come through. And once it's come through, let me just delete these old ones so we can see when it comes in. That'll come through in a second. Once that email comes through, what it's going to do, it's going to have a dynamic link back to that file so that someone can come in and do some annotations. So there's my email. So I said, any file that got saved into this folder, I want you to trigger an action that emails the client, and here's the email. And the great thing about version 17 is that you can use HTML to brand up the email, and you can embed links and stuff into that actual email as well. So here's the email with the preview of the file that we just worked on. I'm sitting in a completely different location on my iPad, and all I need to do is literally just click on that link, and it will launch the web browser for me. And when I log in, it will take me directly to where that file is stored on the Xinet server. So here I am in the web browser. Let's close that browser down. And in a few seconds, that's going to render the image. So there's our InDesign document. And I'm in the annotation tool, so right now I'm just going to do some markup. I'm going to say, right, let's put a line through that, remove this hit, save changes. Then I'm going to go across to page 2, and on page 2, I'm going to change that text here. Tropics is great. I could do it using the annotation tools, but I'm going to do it using the text content tool. So here's the Tropics is great. I'm going to click on the pencil. I'm going to say Tropics Mango. So I've just made a slight text change, and I'm going to save that change. Now, obviously, these are really basic. I'm just doing it so that it's quick. In the real world, I would close down this web browser now because I've done my work, but I'm just going to leave this open just for demo purposes at the moment. And if I was working in the studio, that could have triggered an action off to the person that was working on the file. And when I'm working on that file, if I go back to my asset browser, I could have triggered an action to receive an email to notify me that that file's been worked on and had some annotations done. So here I am in Studio, and you'll notice I now have another button underneath the InDesign document that says Open File with Annotations. If I click on that, here we go. It's because I've got confused with the browsers. Okay, here we go. So here's the actual document itself, and it's been opened. Okay. Yeah, apologies, guys. Basically, what happened there, where I keep changing browsers between sites and styles, it's basically causing a caching problem. So basically, it didn't open the file automatically. But in a real-world scenario, that would never be an issue because you wouldn't have two people collaborating on the same machine. They would be completely separate. So apologies for that. So basically, essentially, what's happened here is if I click on Open File with Annotations, what it's going to do, it's actually going to pull those annotations that were done, and it's going to physically stamp them into the actual InDesign document itself. So what we got here, this little palette has now turned into a markup approval area. So if I now click on to, just put out this browser just so we don't get any clashes again. If I now click onto any of these items, so it's telling me on page 1 the user demo said remove this pick and put a line through it. If I click on that, it will take me directly to the annotation. And from here, I can say, right, okay, that one's been, if we go to our layers, these are all of the original elements, and these are the Xinet annotations that have been stamped, and these are the notes that are stamped. So we can see the text as well. So I'm going to say, let's remove that image because they've told us to do that as the correction. I'm going to get rid of the line. I'm going to say that I've done that, and I'm going to tick the box. So that one's been done. Now I want to go across to page 2 where we've done that text annotation. So if I click on the little link here, that will take me directly to that sticky note annotation. Now from here, we have another shortcut that says swap edited text. Now if I select that, what it will do, it will take the original text and put it onto another layer, and it will then swap out and put the text amendment into that text box for me. So if I turn off that, you can see that it's actually updated the text in the correct font, the correct stylization, and placed it into that text box for me. So I can say done, and I can tick that, and we're good to go. So just a really quick, nice, easy way to be able to do the annotations and be able to collaborate with different people from within the web browser. And if we actually go back to the Xinet server now and log back in, reset Safari, I'm going to log back in with transition, demo, not now. So I'm going to go take a look at that actual InDesign document where I made the changes, which is sitting inside this folder here. And if we look at it, you'll see that obviously straight away Xinet updates the previews. You can see that it's updated with the latest file. But we also have this compare button that we talked about earlier. If I click on that, I can now compare the annotations side by side. So that's the ones that we just obviously made, and these are the ones that we've just done. So we can compare them side by side, and we just select the page that we want to view as well down here. The other thing we can do is click on Report, and when we click on Report, we can actually pull out a preview of the actual annotations that have been done. So from here, you can see that we've numbered them. This is number 1 in here. This is number 2 in here, number 1 on the page. And we can actually print out a report of those annotations, or we could maybe create a PDF of those annotations if you need them for Sarbanes-Oxley or something like that. There's a lot of other stuff in version 17. There's a lot of new triggers and actions. I suggest that you go and check those out. There's some really nice new ones in there. And there's some other nice admin type functions that I'll be happy to show you on another WebEx if you want to take a look at those as well.